committee. Are documents handed out or do we keep them on a computer? Thank you. Did you hear me?
I printed the verbiage so that they could just do it.
Somebody probably.
And Dory, you're going to need to leave Zoom audio from your device, or else we will be getting feedback during the meeting.
Call to order this meeting of the Sustainability Committee of the City of Tarpon Springs. This Thursday, December 17th, 2020. Can I please get a roll call?
Prior to that,
Oh, we do need,
chairperson,
yep, thank you. Thank you for that. So prior to the roll call, we do need to determine the how our members can participate tonight. So I would like to entertain a motion.
Okay, I would like to make a motion and vote to allow the absent member Denise Menino to participate virtually due to extraordinary circumstances and allow her to participate in tonight's meeting and a vote.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Excellent. All in favor, say aye.
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 I'd like to make another motion to
Please.
allow Dr. Robinson to participate virtually due to extraordinary circumstances and allow him to participate in tonight's meeting and vote as well.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All right. Now we're ready for roll call.
yes, ma'am. Ms. Larson,
Present.
Dr. Robinson. I don't see Dr. Robinson.
Mr. Robinson is not on the Zoom call at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Mandalou,
Present.
Ms. Mamino,
Present.
thank you. Ms. Gallagher,
Present.
Ms. Sanger,
Present.
and Ms. Mickett.
Present. All right. Our first order of business is a presentation from Diane Wood, who is the Cultural and Civic Services Director with the city. So I will hand it over to you and say thank you for joining us this evening. We very much appreciate hearing from you.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it being invited, and I'm really excited for any opportunity to talk about the Cultural and Civic Services Department. So I was really intrigued by your by the STAR report. I read through that, and I thought that was such a great piece of information. So I gave you some handouts. I kind of went through that, and I'm gonna focus on you know, our portion of that tonight that kind of aligns more with our department. But before I do that, I'd like to share my screen and just go through a little presentation. Okay. Can you all see that okay?
Yes, we can.
Great,
Thank
great.
you.
And I'm not going to go ahead and belabor everything as far as, you know, all the dates and all the items. But I wanted to give you as much information as I could, because I'm very proud of the department and all of our employees. Under Cultural and Civic Services Department, we have two really diverse areas. We have Tarpon Arts, which is our performing arts section of the department. And then we also have the library, which, you know, is just a phenomenal facility and keeps getting better and better, you know, every year. And then I also am a liaison for the Public Art Committee. So I'm going to just kind of go through a few of our highlights for you. And like I said, I'm going to focus on primarily in the this section of the STAR report. Yeah, I thought it was really, I really love this purpose, because, you know, I feel like that's what our actual department does. Encourage the community member participation. It allows for creative and self-expression, and it's very key for any kind of community revitalization. And I think Tarpon Springs is really fortunate to have as much arts and culture as we do. So I'm very proud of that. Of course, the Heritage Museum is such a wonderful location, and you know, people come and visit all the time, and they always say to us, it's like, I remember when this was the library. So it's really fun to hear their stories, and it's kind of you know, we're located in such a beautiful park. I'm very lucky to be able to come there every day to work. Our two primary wings are the history wing and the ecology wing. The George Michael Balearis wing, of course, has our permanent Greek community exhibit. an archaeological exhibit, and then we kind of rotate out. We usually try to do 2 new exhibits every year. Right now we have a really nice one of the, whoops, I knew that was going to happen to me. Sorry about that. Goodness, I'm not really sure how to stop this puppy.
On the bottom left on mine, there's a back arrow. Like if you hover over the bottom left of the screen.
Stop video. Pause. Is it, oh, well,
Diane, you can try the back arrow.
pause share. Okay, use the back arrow. That's good. Whenever these things don't work, gets me nervous. Okay, so anyway, we do have a Golden Crescent exhibit, and we just put up a really neat new Epiphany exhibit, and our local historical society was very instrumental in helping us with that, and we have some wonderful pictures, so I hope everybody will stop in. And of course, we've got the wonderful ecology wing with Christopher Still's reproductions. And we currently have in there a maritime traditions exhibit that was done by Tina Bukovalis, and also have a manatee exhibit that we put together. So because we have so many people, and it's great this time of year, where we have a life-size manatee that our volunteers and our staff actually made out of paper mache. It's life-size manatee, so you really have to come and see it. It's awesome. And then we have 4 videos, 2 on sponge diving, shrimp boats, and then one of Christopher Still. Also in the lobby is the Women's Club exhibit, and we use the Heritage Museum for Tarpon Arts for our ticket sales. And one of the things that we do, which I feel is really, you know, kind of nice for the city, is that we have interesting, we call it knowledge and nibbles, and they're just an hour presentation on all kinds of different subjects, and we use lots of local people for that. In January, Lynn Whitelaw is going to do one on the history of the arts. So, you know, we have these wonderful educational things that are very low cost, and, you know, brings a lot of people in, and, you know, teaches them a lot about our city. And then, of course, the Cultural Center, which it's looking gorgeous, and I cannot wait for it to reopen. COVID is preventing us from doing that. But one of the things that I think I was so impressed about when I first came to Tarpon Springs was the fact that, you know, Tarpon Springs recycles their buildings, and they do a really good job of that. You know, just like the Heritage Museum, just like our City Hall. And of course, this is the first City Hall. And we just installed a wonderful statue there. So it's looking so good. And right now we also have a mural that's going on in there, a historic mural of Tarpon Springs by Elizabeth Indianos. So I can't wait for everybody to see that. And of course, this is where we have a venue where we have performances. We have a wonderful 70-seat theater in there, and we also do lots of exhibits, and I'm really looking forward to it reopening, because the library is going to partner with Tarpon Arts, and we're going to do a lot of really neat programs for adults and kids as soon as we can safely get people back in there and gather together. And of course, our beloved Sapphire House. This is just some really neat dates. We have great docents. These are volunteers that love the Sapphire House, and they give these wonderful tours. And right now it's decorated to the hilt for Christmas. We normally have a one-day event with a harpist and a storyteller and everything, but we can't gather this year. So we are just trying to get the word out that, you know, it is open, it is beautiful. You can come and take family and friends in small groups. We're very good about keeping everything nice and clean and disinfected, and keeping groups to, you know, everybody has to wear masks, of course, but you really should take a look at it. if you have never been there for Christmas time. It's beautiful. And so we did in the last year, we did increase. We were only open 2 days before on Wednesdays and Fridays. We have added Thursday to the mix. And so, we have a lot of people. In fact, before COVID hit in 2020, we had January and February were two of our highest attendance months of people visiting the Safford House. So we're hoping to get back to that again soon. And then, of course, our Performing Arts Center, we haven't been able to do any shows in there, but we have some wonderful shows that go on. This is
Diane?
just a little sneak peek of what's coming up.
Diane?
We try to do lots of different genres.
Hey, Diane,
Yes, sir.
I don't think we are actually advancing any slides.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
So we have Cultural Center Tarpon Arts up right now.
Wow. So I'm using the arrow down below on my screen and it's advancing, but it's not advancing for you, huh?
That's correct.
Oh, no.
Diane, do you want to stop sharing your screen and I can share mine?
Let me see if I could go back. Is it advancing at all, going back?
Yes.
Yes.
So now we're at the Safford House.
Okay. I apologize. I did practice. But, okay, so we'll go past the Safford House and now is it advancing?
Yes.
We're in the Performing Arts Center.
Yes.
Okay, and then shows. And one of the things we like to do is we provide lots of different genres. But one thing that I've learned about our audience is that, they are primarily 55 plus. And so we try to, our mantra is that we're going to provide quality entertainment at an affordable price. And excuse me, that's my refrigerator. And so we do that. We keep a cap on it because a lot of our retirees are, they're on fixed incomes. So when I am scheduling, and I have to schedule out our season a year in advance, and so we're very cognizant of making sure that we're bringing in quality entertainment for, the people that are coming in from touring groups. And so are you seeing our map now of our shows and events?
Yes.
Okay. And that just goes to show you where we draw with our ticket sales. So you can see it's primarily clustered around Tarpon Springs and around Palm Harbor and all the way down to Dunedin. But we pull from everywhere and we're very proud of that. And Mike and Mark are our production guys when we're in the Performing Arts Center, and they do a great job. And who attends our shows in Pinellas County, I thought you might be interested, where we pull the majority of people from. And this pie chart kind of shows that. And how we're funded, City of Tarpon Springs, also through our memberships, ticket sales, museum entry fees, donations, grants and sponsorships. I have not had a lot of grants have kind of dried up a little bit. So one of the things that I did is I reach out to the community and been pretty successful getting sponsorships to help us. And so I appreciate our local businesses that do support us. And then Americans for the Arts, I thought it was interesting, their chart is showing that the quality of life is enhanced. And a lot of people, believe that and believe that the arts and culture is very necessary. And then this is, some of the things that they point out as being important. Public library, can you see that screen? Is everything working?
Mhm.
Okay, good. And there's the director at the public library, Carrie Bacalvis, does a great job, and her staff. And they do a lot of wonderful programs, that are more based on the sustainability from a perspective of, ecology and teaching people, about how to take care of the earth. Also with our knowledge and nibbles, we've had an arborist come out and talk about landscaping using native plants and things. So, we're really, trying to promote programs like that. And then here's our public art committee. If you go down the sponge docks, you'll see they're putting up our solar powered illuminated light boxes. And we have some other statues and wonderful, art to enhance the city around Tarpon Springs. And they do a wonderful job. And so that's my presentation. I'm sorry about the problems with it. And I am open to any questions that you might have.
Thank you for that. There's so many good things happening in Tarpon Springs, and good to be reminded of all the good things happening around town. So I would love to open it up to the questions.
Diane, this is Paul. You mentioned the growing collection of sustainability materials at the library. Is there a list perhaps that we could access?
Oh, sure.
Books, ebooks, audiobooks, etc.
I can definitely get you that. And also, I wanted to talk to the committee about when we do resume our meetings in the Cultural Center, and even at the Heritage Museum where we have meetings now. I would love to work with you all to get some good topics and, hopefully some speakers that could come in and, and actually share, more information, because I feel like it helps us all, and that's the problem with, everybody's so busy nowadays, but if we can, give it to them in layers and, have different topics, I think it would, be really great. So we have a couple of facilities where we could do that in addition to the library to get the word out. And we'll be happy to put collateral, in the Heritage Museum, which kind of almost, right now, it's kind of like a welcome center because so many people come in, from Craig Park. So, it'd be great to have, information there too. And I will get that to you. And Carrie is going to be out, but I can probably work with one of her employees to get that to you before the end of the year.
Yeah, and you also mentioned the Sustainability Resource Guide. That, I think we would be interested in that as well.
Sustainability resource what? I'm sorry, sir?
Guide.
The guide. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'd just like to thank you for your presentation, Diane. Thanks
Thank
for
you so
coming.
much.
I don't really have any questions. I just feel really privileged to live in a community that values the arts, and to hear how it's integrated into reaching out to the public and educating and inspiring people. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. We love what we do. We sure do.
And I'd like to just echo Denise's comments as well. Thank you for being with us tonight. Thanks for everything you do for the city. And it's nice to know, I feel that there's a real open door policy with Tarpon Arts to explore possibilities. And I
Sure.
think that innovation is really important and inspiring. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
A few questions, and if nobody else does, I was kind of waiting because I didn't want to jump. The first, if you look at in the STAR goal areas for arts and culture for actions, one for EAC 1, it mentions having a plan to protect, enhance, expand the community's arts and cultural resources and strengthen creative industries. So do we have an actual plan of how the resources, how it all works?
Well, I know that the city itself is working with all of our departments to put together, a strategic plan. My department, about 2 years ago, we did kind of a 5-year, strategic plan for our department. And, as far as growing and utilizing new technology and you'll be very proud of us because we have a recycling container outside of the Heritage Museum now. So we're trying to do our part in some of these buildings that are off site. But as far as the STAR program, I would love to work with you all because this is something new to me. I had just learned about it when Paul, asked me to, come on and see the committee. So, if we could, I would love to set up a meeting and, see how we could, possibly lay out something that's strategic that would involve the culture and the arts. Because like I said, it's brand new. But I enjoyed reading about it and it was fascinating.
Mhm.
Going down to action 6, you said that the arts is provided financial support through the city, and I'm guessing that supports the local arts programs and cultural tourism.
What we get from the city is, like every department has a budget. And so, we have, our budget that is given to us from the city, but that doesn't cover all of our expenses. And that's where the ticketing and the memberships and donations and the fees like that, come in to cover so that we can, do the programs that we do and bring in the artists, that we do.
What about youth programming? Can you talk a little bit about that?
I'm hoping that we can do more at the Cultural Center when it opens because, we were talking to the Tarpon Springs Art Association, and they've done a great job with doing classes, art classes for the kids and everything. And so we're hoping to do that at the Cultural Center. One of the thoughts we had, which would be really kind of cool, is, in the theater area that has the 70 seats, to get a screen and then show like a film, like a short film to the kids, like let's say on Van Gogh, and then have them actually do artwork in that style. And we've talked to the Tarpon Springs Art Association, and they were very excited about the idea of doing that and, teaching the kids and doing a class. So we're hoping that once the Cultural Center opens, we can get that program going. But I think there's an opportunity for all kinds of classes for the kids. We used to bring them into our shows, but then what happened is Pinellas County changed the busing schedule and there was a bunch of conflicts. And so, the schools just said, we can't do it anymore, which was very sad. I personally, when I have some artists that are coming from some touring companies, I have, they'll come and do an outreach for me. And to be honest with you, it's a little sad, but I've reached out to our Tarpon schools and they have not taken me up on any of it. So, I'll try again and I'll keep trying. So,
what about theater programs for kids? I know that my son's older now, but my oldest son loved being in the local theater programs here.
Oh, absolutely. We actually did Aladdin about a year ago and had a big production with the kids, and they did phenomenal. So also we did some kids productions at the Cultural Center as well, and that has kind of shut down our children's program. We tried to bring some, shows in for kids at the Performing Arts Center, and unfortunately it didn't really sell very well. I think the kids are so involved in so many different things locally, but I feel like the theater programs are really important because it helps them with their self-expression, their confidence. And so we're going to go ahead and start those again when we get back into the Cultural Center.
Excellent. I know my son loved doing that. For sure. Moving on down to EAC 4, which is the historic preservation segment. You listed a lot of the locations around the city that are on the National Register of Historic Places, which is fantastic. Are these private or public or both?
They're both.
Okay.
They're both. And I was really interested. I thought that was kind of interesting about the diving boats, and I knew of some of them, but I didn't realize that there were so many diving boats, and I'm not sure what shape they're in or their actual locations, but I did some research and I got those, all of those names. And so I thought, well, that's really great. We need to publicize that, because we do have a lot of historic, wonderful things to be proud of here in the city.
Absolutely. So is there a systematic approach to preserving some of these historic structures and sites? And the reason I'm asking is because I think we're going to start talking in some of our upcoming meetings with the planning director, and they're looking at development code and that sort of thing. So I'm trying to kind of tie some of these different things together and what our role could be.
Now, that's probably a good question for the Historical Society. My department does not get into more of the historic preservation. I look to them, like for instance, for our programming, we had Phyllis Kolianos come, and she did a wonderful talk on, the Tarpon Springs past with the archaeology and everything aspect. And it's fascinating, and it's always filled, and, it's hard to, she's busy, so it's hard to get her to do too many of them. But I always look to them. They're more of the experts. So, my job is to get it out to the public. So if I can help them get it out to the public, all the better, kind of thing. So, but I can't really help you there. I would point you in the direction of them.
That's fine. I'm just, like I
Yeah,
said,
yeah, sure. How it all goes together.
how it all folds in together.
Mhm.
In EAC 5, which is the social and cultural diversity, you mentioned under programs and services, this Art of Health event,
Yeah.
which is
Mhm.
really exciting. What about like the Night on the Isles and those kind of things that or is that still continuing? I know with COVID, obviously everything stopped, but.
The Merchants Association, when Tita Bukvalis retired, the Merchants Association took over Night in the Islands. And so my department really doesn't have anything to do with that anymore. So that would be a merchant's question. And I know that they are, really wanting to get back to all the public events, but unfortunately we're all kind of stymied.
I guess those are all my questions. I had quite a few, so.
I'm happy to answer them. If anybody thinks of anything else, please feel free to, contact me. And I look forward in the new year for maybe us to get together and come up with a really neat plan to get the word out even more.
And one more thing before we go, it just occurred to me when you mentioned trying to work with the schools more. Tarpon Elementary has the YMCA of the Suncoast has a presence there. And we have a partnership with the YMCA. One of our board members is the behavioral specialist. One of our Peace for Tarpon board members works with the Y. So that might be a different avenue to have a presence at the elementary school, Tarpon. If you want to get with me, we'll see if we can't connect you.
Great. And I will mention that we do have schools that bring students by to the Heritage Museum. So, we do group sessions with them, so, as far as the performances go, I sure would love, for them to be able to get exposure to these wonderful artists that come into town. So we'll work together.
Cafeteria, so it's a nice big space where they have their after school. So that might be a good fit. We could check it out.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being with us this evening and sharing all your thoughts and, enlightening us on all the things that, that are happening in the community, and certainly look forward to continuing the conversation and working with you.
Thank you. I wish everybody a very happy holiday. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you. You as well.
Diane.
You, same to you.
Thank you.
All right. Our next item on the agenda is the comprehensive plan review update, and Paul is going to walk us through that. So turn it over to you, Paul.
Good evening, Paul Smith here. Hope everyone can hear me through my mask okay. As you all know, we have our main initiative is the development of the Sustainability Action Plan, and underneath that umbrella are a lot of individual activities that are happening, including later on in our agenda where we talk about the framework we're going to use to develop and utilize that Sustainability Action Plan. But I believe a parallel path along with that, this committee expressed an interest in being in on the land development code review and the comprehensive plan review. So we've started moving in that direction, and we've been working with the planning and zoning department. And I just wanted to give you a quick update tonight about how things are shaping up and how I see we might be able to get involved with that. The first thing I want to explain is that generally the comprehensive plan is the guiding policy document, and then the land development code are the individual code requirements to carry that comprehensive plan out. Staff and planning and zoning have put together, it's actually in a spreadsheet format with individual tabs at the bottom, but it's an index of the entire land development code. There's many articles in it, within it, and then subsections. And there's actually a link you can click on next to each one that'll take you to that part of the code so you could read it in its entirety. There's also a place for you to type in notes or comments that can be utilized later on when we get to the point of recommending revisions. In our discussions with the planning and zoning department, it might be best for now, since we understand the comp plan as the guiding principles, that perhaps the first step would be to get this out to you, the land development code, so that you can see the sections in it. We've highlighted sections in green that might be of interest to sustainability. And just so that you're familiar with the structure, what's in it, those of you that wish to already start making suggested edits, of course you can do that, but it might make a lot more sense to come back to that later after we've had a chance to also talk about the comprehensive plan. So if I could make an analogy, I see the comprehensive plan as a destination, and the land development code is maybe all the turns that you make to get there. So it may not be quite that bright of a line between the two, but if that helps you understand the relationship. There's also something that the same department, planning and zoning, is working on, which is a community engagement tool. And they're going to utilize that to help them get public input on that process. But we also see an opportunity to utilize that in our sustainability action plan. As you all know, we have been struggling with the community engagement in these times we're in, but also in terms of how broad of the community we can engage. Because we know that the broader the engagement is, the better it's going to be. So what I'm leading up to here is we've talked about having the work sessions during the daytime. And I'm going to recommend that the planning and zoning department be part of our first efforts on that. And that could include them taking us through the land development code in a little bit of detail, the comprehensive plan, but also perhaps as a separate item of discussion would be this community engagement tool, where they can actually walk through some of it, show you how it works, give you some ideas that you can give us feedback on how we might use it for our purposes. So that's an overview of what's coming up. I'd like to email that out to you, or Ashley will probably do it in the next week or so you can start looking through the land development code. We'll have a cover email that'll explain what it is, but just know that we're at the beginning, and it's okay to have a lot of questions. So I'll turn it back over to you, Dory.
Thank you for that overview. So I want to kind of color in the lines a little bit and make sure that we're all kind of level set on what we're talking about. So the first is the like Diane Wood also mentioned, the city is getting ready to start doing some strategic planning and like long-term visioning for the city in general. So we've got that happening. And then part of that process is looking at the comprehensive plan, trying to figure out what really are like the driving goals and where does the city want to be going. And then those land development code changes will facilitate those goals happening and kind of chart a path forward, if that makes sense. So we're going to be working with the planning department to kind of look at where, like they've already identified in the spreadsheet, where they think that we might want to engage, but I think that it's still wide open to engage in other topics as well that are part of the land development code, so that we can give feedback there. And then we also, Paul and I had a conversation with the planning department today to kind of make sure that we were in understanding of, try to explain it to the committee. They also talked about wanting to try to get to some short-term goals and actions in addition to the long-term goals and actions. So to the end of, maybe not waiting until we have our whole sustainability action plan written to start taking action on some of these things that could be done quicker. Mm-hmm. So to that end, I would like that as you're thinking of and you're looking through the spreadsheet that Paul is going to send out this week, also be thinking about your priorities, because I explained to Renee, Vincent, our planning director, I may have this idea that I think that would be really helpful to the city in terms of like trying to stop all the wetlands impacts. But I don't know what in the land development code would need to be changed to get there. And I think we're all laymen, like none of us really have planning degrees. So we wouldn't necessarily know exactly what to tweak in order to get the effect that we want. So if we could also kind of put together priority items that we're thinking about, like as we're thinking about sustainability and where we would like the city to be going, to be able to share that list with them so we can talk amongst it and maybe come to consensus on what we think are like the top items to start to address as a group. And then they can help us figure out how to plug it in to the land development code changes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so for the next meeting, like Paul mentioned, starting those workshops, if we could each, in that time of a month or however long it is before we have that meeting set, look through the spreadsheet, look at all of and it is, I'll be honest, it's like what you guys said about the star system, like it's a lot. You look at it, it seems very overwhelming. But if we could start to look through what they have marked in green, highlighted in green, and then also just be thinking big picture for our priority areas, I think that would be really helpful to come prepared for the meeting with.
Okay, sounds good.
Are there questions about what we're wanting to do? Oh, and then I did also want to, I'm sorry, I do want to talk a little bit about the software that we can use for the community engagement. So that's the second piece. So remember we had talked a couple months ago about how the city was going out to bid for a community engagement tool.
Oh, yeah.
That's what this is. So they've pretty much, they've decided and are purchasing this software. And we got to see a little preview from Allie with the planning department today. Super cool because people can give feedback 24/7. You can put documents on the screen so that it kind of explains what you're trying to do and then also solicit feedback. You can even do it with detail, like if we ask, just as an example, looking at the tree canopy and ask citizens, where would you like to see trees? They can literally put dots on the map so we can get that visual data. And it can be collected 24/7. So somebody at 2 a.m. has a brainstorm, they can get on the website and give feedback to the city. So I think that like that's not totally fleshed out part of what the conversation will be, is how we can use that to get community input for the work that we're trying to do.
Dory, help me understand, is it interactive at all? As far as I understand, you can put in your priorities for tree canopies, for example. But what if someone has something to bring that might put a different perspective on that, or something else like a citizen engagement to remove invasive species or something like that? How to, it may, I mean, I don't know, I haven't seen it. It may be on there, it may not be on there. But is there a way for, if a resident or someone has an idea of how that can be another piece woven into it, is that possible?
The way that I understood it, and like I said, I saw this for the first time today, so I'm
Right,
certainly not an
sure.
expert, but the way that it looked, almost like on the right-hand side, you can have citizen feedback, and they could give feedback. And then it's like a timestamp, so you can see what all of the other comments are, so that, if you say, Kieran's got this great idea, and I never thought of it, but it's recorded there on the website so that you can see other people's thoughts and ideas.
That's good. Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Dory, what is the name of the software? Is there some way I can look it up?
Sure. It's actually called Bang the Table, BANG, and then THE, and then Table, TABLE.
Okay. All right.
It seems to
Thank
be
you.
growing in popularity. It has a very social media kind of look to it. It's a real nice, crisp look. And as Dory was saying, a variety of tools that the city can design projects, as they will, that you click on the page, and it has a variety of ways to give your feedback. There's like ways to
And
story.
would it be on the city website? Is that what we're suggesting? Where is it going to be available? Is it going to be, how will people know it's there?
Yeah, we've got to
How
still
do they
work.
find out?
Yeah, we're going to work on rolling that out, and there'll be a variety of ways to engage the public and make sure that the public's aware of this tool and wants to use it. So we're just getting started, and in fact, staff is starting to do training on it now. So I think what I got from it is it's got a lot of potential, a lot of possibility that I think will take our engagement efforts to another level, a higher level.
Great.
Super.
It was really cool. It looked like tiles, like on a website. There was an example of like, show us your Christmas lights, and then people could take pictures of their Christmas decorations and share. So that, I mean, there's lots of different things you can do with it, but it is, to me, it was really kind of engaging, that you can see what your neighbors are up to.
So our goal is to do a demonstration of that to you all, whether it be in an upcoming committee meeting or in one of our workshops that we're going to set up. But yes, we'll definitely get more into that, and you all can ask questions as it's on the screen and show how it works.
Great.
Any other questions about item number 2, the comp plan review update?
I have one more question. Just if we have projects that are already in progress that might be enhanced with sustainability retrofits, is that a potential option, or are we just going to not worry about it? I mean, if we have suggestions, the only reason I ask is that something came up. I was listening on Zoom to the BOC meeting on Tuesday night, and there was something mentioned about a conversion that's happening at the wastewater to chlorine. And one of the callers asked, well, why aren't we doing UB? He was suggesting that it's less expensive way of sanitizing, and there's no byproduct. And that made me wonder, well, is it so far in progress that things couldn't be changed at all? I mean, what would be that point where there's no returning to being able to do a retrofit with sustainability in mind? Because it hasn't necessarily been the top priority up till more recent times. So that's my question. For
To that,
Paul, maybe?
yes, I can.
Yeah.
I want to tell you first that that was actually evaluated from the very beginning for that project. And UV does have its place in disinfection of water, but in our case, we need a residual of chlorine to keep that reclaimed water safe as it travels into our storage tanks and out into the pipes, and et cetera. And UV just doesn't provide that. So what you'd end up having to do is do the UV and then add some more chlorine at the end. So it would sort of defeat the benefit of that. And the project cost would probably be about triple of what we were looking at. So you have to worry about power reliability with UV. It has to be working all the time with no breaks in energy, or else you won't get treatment. So then you're into, generators that switch on very fast, and perhaps battery storage if you're using solar panels. So it does increase the complexity. These are things that could always be added later as they become less expensive and augment the project. But for now, this was the safest, most effective solution. Back to your other question of, is it ever too late? And of course not. We're always open to input and ideas. And if it is something truly we can incorporate and it makes sense and it's feasible, we'll certainly look at doing it. I hope that answers your question on that.
Yes, thank you.
Denise, I watched the meeting. I had the same question because the person who made that comment, he sounded knowledgeable. It sounded like an interesting idea. And I can't help but think that other people who were listening to the meeting were kind of just left with a big question mark. And I know that it's the nature of how the structured meetings are structured. It's not like everyone can interrupt and then you go into something else and but it left that dangling question, because I had the exact same question, is like those, you mirrored my thoughts exactly. So I don't know how to be able to respond to people who have questions, just as a courtesy to say that we did look into it, but so the public knows that the city is not just, someone has a cogent, sensible comment, the city's not just going, well, we're not going to listen to that they did look at it and they, here are the reasons why. It would be great to have some type of a feedback mechanism to also to share that knowledge with the general public, so that they're not just left thinking that, well, they blew him off, that must not be a good idea, when there's actually something to it, but it's not quite a good fit, so I don't know how that would be done, but something like that, as we look towards engaging residents more, I think that would be an appropriate thing to do, but it, I don't know how to manage it or any way to get there from here, basically, but it's the thought.
Hopefully that person is listening in tonight and was able to hear the reasons that we had to pursue the other option.
And I'm not sure what the intent, what the city is for every project and how they plan on using this engagement tool, but my hope is that as projects are getting started and going through, they can be putting those kinds of, items on and seeking feedback and being able to at least have a response before it cuts off at the end of a meeting and we don't really hear anything. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Any other thoughts or comments on that item? Okay. Then we'll move on to item number 3, which is the discussion of the mayor's memo regarding sea level rise, other grant projects, and a systematic approach. And I'm going to hand that over to Paul to share with us where we are with that.
So as you all know, the mayor sent the committee a memo back in October, And in the memo, he asked that he get some feedback from the committee on project priorities that he can then carry forward for funding consideration. And what I did is I drafted a memo for you all to think about and give me input on. I tried to make it very overt that this is a draft for your input. It's not meant to be a final memo. I want to hear from you if this represents something you'd want to send. But the overall idea here is we're still very early in the process of identifying vulnerability of shoreline. Also doing an urban canopy assessment. That was an area of interest this committee has mentioned. And we're just at the beginning of our greenhouse gas emissions. So if we can get some help and funding to do that, speed that whole thing up, that would be very helpful to us. Keeping in mind, item number 1, we've already got 2 grant requests in, but I think we just cover our bases. And this, again, is a communication to the mayor of the things that we are interested in advancing. So that's the idea behind this. I went and put just very rough numbers next to each thing because I know when you're going to ask for funding, usually that's the first question someone will ask you, well, how much are you thinking that's going to cost? So that's the purpose of those estimates, but they truly are estimates.
And just to color in a little bit more on that item, I think that the intent is that the mayor is looking to go to the state for funding. So usually when that happens, they want to see a plan of how you're spending the money and what the money is going to go to instead of just kind of Christmas tree list or Christmas wish list. So that's what we're, I think, attempting to do here is outline, these are pretty big ticket items. So you wouldn't necessarily have the funds to be able to do. And if the state could help with the offset of some of those costs, then that would be very helpful to our committee and the city in general. So I'll open it up for questions or comments.
Are the items that are listed, are they, I'm assuming just there are our first priorities, and it would be an annual request for project support, or I mean, because this certainly isn't everything that we're hoping will happen, but I'm assuming that he might go to how often does the city go to the state to request support for projects that are outside of our budget?
I think it's a year-round process. I haven't really talked to the mayor in detail about his schedule, but I think you're on track there. This would be something we would revisit annually. I don't think the memo would be the same each year. It might have 1 or 2 of the same elements until we get the grants or get them, completed. But yeah, this would be the first one. And then in all of mayor or commissioner discussions with various representatives, they could have this as a working idea of the sustainability priorities of the city. Or at least key projects. I don't want to say these are our, necessarily our only priorities, but these are things that we really need to get done to make some progress on the sustainability action plan.
So we had talked about wanting to have all of that baseline data and being able to know where we are in terms of projects that need to happen. So this would help speed that process up. Question?
Yes. In the mayor's memo, he identifies 3 areas in Tarpon Springs for sea level rise. Dodecanese, the South Spring Boulevard, and Canal Street. And so there's where I live at Riverside in Chesapeake, it floods a lot. And I understand, and this was in a discussion I had with Paul quite a while ago, that Riverside's a county road, so that the city really can't fix that major flooding, but there's tons of traffic there. So it would behoove us to get that fixed.
So does the city petition the county and try to engage the county in addressing these issues that we're raising that the city itself can't really mitigate?
Yeah, great question. And the short answer is yes. That section you're talking about is actually considered in the Beckett Bridge project,
Oh,
which the last time I checked, at least a section of it, I think up to Chesapeake in that area, that they're saying 21 to 23 is when construction would start on that. That's quite a range, isn't it? But I think that's because it involves property acquisition that they're working through. But I do know they're aware of that low part of the road, and I understand that that's part of that project. And I know several members of the commission have brought that up as a concern as well, and I think that enhances the chances of that getting communicated to the county. But we'll continue to follow up on that.
And I think that part of the vulnerability assessment and action plan is that we would have a real solid understanding and a more firm map of where exactly all of the flooding's happening and what actions need to be taken to resolve it. So that's part of like having that, overlay and plan before we just start throwing money at different projects. We actually have a systematic way of approaching it. So that's the rationale behind that.
I think it's a good place to start.
So do we have any edits to suggest to Paul, or are we comfortable with it as is?
Early to mention it, but maybe for the coastal vulnerability, kind of mentioning living shorelines, but it's probably too early for just the assessment. But I feel like that could be pretty beneficial to like sea life.
Could that be woven into it, I wonder?
Yeah.
Sure.
That could, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that was
agree.
one of the solutions.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
To weave those solutions into the funding request.
yes.
Mhm.
Sounds like something I'd like to fund.
Yeah. I'd like you to fund it too.
Okay, so then sounds like we've got some direction on that and we're set with that item. All right, so then moving along to item number 4, which is the continued discussion of the STAR community framework. And I went ahead, I'm going to share my screen so that everybody can see what I did. I asked staff to send out the, I took the feedback that I got from everybody from last meeting, put it into a spreadsheet, shared it with you guys, but I did go back in and kind of ordered, or I put some weight on the responses. So I know it's little, but what I did was I just for the columns, the priority topics of the built environment, climate, energy, economy and jobs, education, arts and community, equity and empowerment, health and safety, and natural systems, put in our responses. And then I did an average just so we can see which priority area was ranked highest so that we can start to discuss it by topic. And natural systems was the highest based on the average. And then climate and energy was second. Health and safety was third. Economy and jobs was fourth. The built environment was fifth. Equity and empowerment was sixth. And education, arts and community was seventh. And I did it both ways because Karen, I think you had 6 or 7 for 2 of them. So I averaged them both and no, it's fine. But either way, those 2 were the last 2. So for the purpose of what we're trying to do, it does kind of give us some direction to be talking about natural systems and looking at those categories probably next. So I think that as we start to have workshop meetings with city staff. So in addition to the planning department and having conversations with them about the land development code, I think we want to continue pressing on with the sustainability action plan and having meetings with staff around and, you know, organizing the conversation around topic areas. So it looks like the first meeting would be focusing on natural systems. So what I would like is for us to take a look more closely at all of the tiles in the natural systems column and be thinking about just in general what we'd like to have in or what we'd like to prioritize for the sustainability action plan, but then also how that might relate to updates for the comprehensive plan and the land development code and things that would be woven into that. Does that make sense?
Mhm. What was number 3?
The third
Sorry, what was the number 3?
health and safety.
Okay.
Do you want me to repeat the way that it ranked?
Yeah, I got 1, 2, so I just need 3, 4. I'm assuming 4 is economy and jobs.
Economy and jobs was 4. Yeah.
Mhm.
The 5th was the built environment.
Okay.
And then the 6th was equity and empowerment. And the 7th was education, arts, and community.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm. So questions or discussion about working through it that way?
Is there a document for this STARS community framework and that spells all this out?
There is, and I will make sure that you get that.
You'll share that with me?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't think I received that.
I go through it, the natural systems, the first component is green infrastructure. Then there's biodiversity and invasive species. So that would probably, like the tree canopy that we're talking about, would feed into that. Natural resource protection, outdoor air quality is the 4th. The 5th is water in the environment, and the 6th is working lands, which I think might also, you know, and I want to remind us that this is a framework. It's not like we have to follow all of these things to a T. But what it does is give ideas of actions that can be taken. So just to kind of throw this out there, when I was reading working lands, I was also thinking it could be working water because we had that report about how, what was it, 60% of the commercial fish caught in Pinellas County come in through Tarpon Springs. So perhaps we could be looking at working water.
Mhm.
Down.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, mine's like.
And like, we don't have much working land, but we definitely have working water, so.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna be having workshops soon. This is the first time I'm hearing this. Like, we have them starting, like, we're thinking about it now.
Yes, Paul, do you want to talk about, I thought that we had mentioned it at the last meeting, so I apologize if we did not.
No, that's okay. Yeah, it's something I did talk to the city manager about, and he was supportive of it. I do think with the COVID thing, and we're going to need to work through the format. You know, I don't really have an answer yet on how to balance sunshine law requirements with COVID and social distancing. So we've got to figure that one out still, but as soon as we can come up with a solution that everyone can live with and want to come and attend, then, you know, we'll be letting you all know what we can do. I think at a minimum, what we should do is plan next agenda items so that at least we're continuing to make progress in the format we do know is working for us. But yeah, I do look forward to those daytime. It's going to be daytime sessions, probably afternoon. Isn't that right, Dory? Is that what everyone indicated was good for them?
Yeah, I thought we had talked about 2-hour meetings and not going beyond that because it's everybody starts to like lose focus after 2 hours, and perhaps starting at 4, so maybe 4 to 6, or maybe 3 to 5, so that it's not asking staff to be over their regular workday too much.
I think we might have mentioned that, yeah.
Okay, I thought that we did because we
Yeah.
asked for feedback if people could work that into their work in school schedules. Okay. So that's, yeah, that's the idea. All right. Any other questions or comments about, do we want to, yeah.
So our STAR community framework, we're going to be delving into that into a workshop. Is that correct? So what's our next step to do with that? Is there an interim step before then, or?
So yeah, that's what, in looking at the categories, that since natural systems ranked first, the idea would be to have a workshop with city staff, all of the staff members that would feed into those components. And then the work that we would need to do as a committee ahead of time is to go through all of those components and look at which of the goals we want, because the way that it's set up, it's like you can do this or this or this and this. So getting some, feedback from each of us and being able to talk about what is the outcome, like what are we trying to get accomplished with this, and then start to look at what action items do we think we need to include in the plan in order to get us there.
So our next evening meeting, we'll be working on that, and then the workshop to follow after our input, is that right? Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Is our next meeting an evening meeting, or are we actually deferring to afternoon meetings?
I don't have the format.
Need to know for scheduling, for my scheduling purposes.
Yes, we still need to figure out the format for those daytime meetings. So I'm just saying conservatively, it may be a night meeting as our next meeting, unless I can get
Okay.
worked out and get everybody saying that they can attend, whatever medium that is.
And remember, we're going to try to also be doing those workshop meetings that are in regard to the land development code and the comp plan. So we're trying to do a parallel path here so that we're not waiting for one to do the other, because we really would like to start taking some, and similarly with, I think, the land development code, if there are things that we think that we could have some quick wins on with this, instead of waiting to write it into the sustainability action plan, I think that that's what we should be looking to do as well.
And I just a point of housekeeping, I think, do we need to clear this with the city manager if we're doing additional meetings?
Paul already has, that's what he's
yeah.
saying.
Got it. Sorry, Paul, if I missed that you.
No, thank you, Karen. That's a
discussed.
great point. And
Okay.
yeah, I was already able to go over that with him, and he supports it.
Okay, great. Thanks.
So are we all pretty clear now on what we're working towards for our January meeting would be kind of-ish? We can, I can write it out again too.
I'm working, pedaling behind you there.
So I think our next meeting is January 27th,
First.
1st?
But I think 21st is the third, I think.
Thank you.
21st? Okay. So for the 21st, if we can all have looked through the natural systems segment and be willing or ready to have a conversation about what we think the goals should be and targets for that, and then what some of the action items are. And remember, we don't have to have a goal for each one of these 6 items. If we, as a consensus, don't think that we need to do that, we can also combine. Like, this is our project to create. So it's, the idea is that the STAR is like a framework, but it's not like holding our feet to the fire that we have to check every single box to make it, we need to make it work for what we think is going to work for the city and what we think city leadership is going to support.
Can we get that sent to us? What our next step is? So
Yes,
we'll have it in
yeah,
front of
I
us.
would be happy to write that up.
Thanks.
All right. Questions? You good? All right, moving on then to items for the next agenda. So I think we're going to maybe hear from the planning department. An update on where we are with the land development code, and then also more information about the community communication engagement tool. Is that correct, Paul?
Yes.
So that would be an item. We still need to hear from the fleet department and have a presentation from them. So if you think that,
I would suggest one or the other, and I would suggest planning and zoning for this one. We do have another item from staff for this agenda coming up. The greenhouse gas baseline. Staff has been working with the model, and I think they'll be ready to give you an overview of work completed so far and what's ahead and how it might shape up. So I'd like to put that on the agenda, or recommend it be on there.
okay, excellent. So we'll have the planning and zoning department talk to us about the comp plan update and then the inventories update. So this is the baseline data that the city's been collecting for greenhouse gas. Is it also going to be like the water baseline? And
Yes, I will ask Ashley. She's been doing regular meetings with her staff cohorts on the model input. So Ashley, what are the main areas that you've been working on there?
So we've been working on electricity, and we do have the water division that we're working on as well. So we will be able to give you some information about what we've been doing on it as it pertains to those areas.
excellent. So having that baseline data will help us to set our goals. So that's exciting that we're getting closer to that. All right. So we've got those two items. Does anybody else want to add anything to next month's meeting?
I want to suggest that the planning and zoning, I think it's going to be very good, very interesting, probably going to take every bit of an hour to work through that. I mean, you could almost do a whole meeting on those two items, but I want to leave room for committee members to suggest other things. So.
Well, I'd like to try and flesh out where we land with the natural systems as well, so that we go to one of the workshops with ideas. So if we can, I think if we can get those three things, that would be a very full meeting.
So because we're getting the land development code with the green highlights, so we'll go over that another time.
We're going to go over that in so the spreadsheet with the green highlights is the comp plan update conversation from the planning and zoning department.
Got it.
And that's what Paul was saying would probably take an hour.
Okay. Good.
Between that and hearing about the software. All right, so we've got pretty much item 5 items for next agenda set. So I guess the next item on the agenda is going to public comments. Do we have any public comments? Was there anyone on the Zoom? I guess not. Okay. So
We don't have
next
any.
item, I'm sorry.
We don't have any participants in the public at this time.
Thank you. So we'll go to staff comments.
I'd just like to mention that please continue to monitor Board of Commissioners agendas and activities. I do know that they're going to be having some workshop, town hall type meetings coming up, looks like early in the year. And one of them is homelessness. Don't quote me on this, but I think it's February 7th, 2nd, something in that time frame. But if once I confirm it, I'll send it out to you all. But I thought that is certainly tying into one of the areas of interest some of the members have expressed. So it may be interesting for you to attend it, perhaps provide your input. Just wanted you all to know about that. Another item that'll be on the January 12th Board of Commissioners agenda is the city vehicles for the year. And I wanted you all to know that we've included 4 green fleet type vehicle recommendations in there. That would be 2 plug-in vehicles and 2 hybrid vehicles. So, and this is based on staff formed a work group last year, actually in February, pre-COVID, we went down to the city of Largo. I don't know if you remember, there was a bit of a media splash with them ordering a lot of sustainable green fleet type vehicles. So we wanted to go down and see what they're doing and what they recommend. And it was great. We had members of our various departments, including fleet, and talk to their fleet people in their different departments. And that's what formed our recommendations for vehicle application types for that agenda item.
And Madam Chair, my Zoom had locked up, so I was not able to see that. We do have somebody in the public who has their hand raised. Would you like to hear from them?
Yes, please.
And we have a Mr. Anderson. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for giving me the unmute. My name is Brian Anderson. I am not a resident of City of Tarpon Springs. However, I've been acting as the city's stormwater consultant basically since 2009. I've been working with Paul on a number of projects in the city for a number of years now. One, I just wanted to introduce myself and say thank you for giving me the invite, Paul, to the meeting. I do plan to be a part of these meetings in the future. My comment, though, getting back to the public comment period, was there was a comment earlier about Riverside, flooding at Riverside and Chesapeake. I just thought I could add a little bit, shine a little light on that. The flooding at Chesapeake and Riverside will be addressed as part of the the Beckett Bridge replacement project. That area has been a known flooding issue within the city for a long time. It was communicated to Pinellas County when the Beckett Bridge project came online, and they are resolving that flooding problem with that project. We've reviewed the plans and made sure that that area is being addressed. So that was the only thing I wanted to add.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you for introducing yourself, for being here with us tonight. I hope that you will continue to engage with us and share your expertise with us as we are moving forward, and for giving us that little nugget on Riverside and how that's going to be addressed with the county.
Thank you.
I'd like to add too that Brian will be part of the team in our vulnerability assessment. I got his input on our approach when we submitted the grant application, and I'm hopeful, one way or another, we'll be working together to assess things. He's a natural member of the team because of his extensive knowledge of the city's drainage system and how any flooding would be mitigated. And so, yeah, thanks for tuning in tonight.
All right. And are there any other folks that are on the Zoom?
And we do not have any other attendees at this time.
Great. All right. So then moving on, Ashley, did you have anything that you wanted to add for staff comments?
I did not.
Okay, great. So moving on to committee comments. Open it up.
I'd just like to welcome our newest member, Carol Mickett. She is alternate number 2, and just welcome her to the committee. And she's got a good mind and good heart, so I think she's a welcome addition to our group.
Thank you. I was going to actually ask Dr. Miggett if you wouldn't mind saying a few things about yourself to kind of introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Dr. Carol Mickett. I have a PhD in philosophy. I was a philosophy professor for quite a long time. I live on Chesapeake Drive in Tarpon Springs. I've been here for 3 years. I work as an artist. I collaborate with Robert Stackhouse. We have a studio on Center Street in the old Joe Kalakis building right next to his new one. It's the white building. It's also on the bike trail. Robert Stackhouse and I are currently Creative Pinellas's art laureates. And we work in around the issue of climate change, doing work on the increase of CO2 in the waters and the heating up of the waters and different ways to mitigate that. We will be having a really large show at Creative Pinellas in March. It was supposed to be in January, but because of COVID, they're postponing it. And it'll fill all of the galleries. And it will also include performance, and we're going to set up panel discussions with the Botanical Gardens and Florida Extension and probably the Marine School at USF, and any other suggestions to have discussions about that, and also to talk about how to communicate these sorts of issues through art, which addresses a whole different audience and can raise these issues and get people to think about things in a way that maybe a platform like this wouldn't work so much. So I'm very excited to be part of this because all of the things about sustainability, about climate, whatever, ends up with social justice, because people who most get affected by this are people of low income and especially brown and black people. And these are ways that we really have to address. And I think I will learn a lot from being on this committee, and then I can do more on my part in terms of working with the community and making better art.
Thank you for that, and welcome aboard. We're very happy to have you with us.
Thank you.
Any other committee comments?
Well, Paul had mentioned that the next BOC meeting he thought was at the 7th. I think it's a continuation of the Anclote Harbor conversation, because they had a very, very long BOC meeting on Tuesday. I had waited online trying to see what was going to be discussed and what the public comments were going to be, but they were far from getting to that point. So it has been rescheduled, and I guess only by word of mouth will people know about it at this point. I think it's January 7th, 6 o'clock. I think that's a Thursday night. It's the day after Epiphany. That's the reason that that date was chosen, to try to do it before the next BOC meeting. But they're only going to finish the conversation on the Anclote Harbor project, which had a lot of people from the public were there. I went at the end, there were about 75 people still online. So there's some passion about it. That's all that I have.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
Well, I will share, just for, I guess, a little public education. We switched out our water heater, and it was original to the house. So it was much older. It survived a much longer life than I think it should have. So at any rate, we bought, they sell, and and the reason I'm bringing it up is just because I don't think a lot of people know about it, but it's a heat pump water heater hybrid. So it pumps hot, if you think about your refrigerator and how it gives that hot air off the back, it's basically the opposite of that. So it's pumping in the hot air and using that to heat the water. So in the summer months, it'll cool the garage and also make our water warmer and save a ton of energy and money. So our last system used about 5,000 kilowatt hours a year, which is a lot. That adds up to about $600 for that one appliance. That's the second largest energy drain in the home on average behind your HVAC system. And our new system will use about 958 kilowatt hours annually. So instead of spending like $600 and something in electricity for the year, it'll be closer to 100. And so it'll be about a $500 savings. So while the hybrid system is more expensive than just a conventional heat pump, or not heat pump, water heater, it within 2 years will pay for itself in energy efficiency savings, and then we'll keep adding on to that. So just throwing that out there to my committee members and also to the public in general, that I really am a dork and got really excited about saving that much energy in a year and also that much money. And just I had no idea. It was an eye-opening experience. So passing that along.
Dory, I wonder if there's a way.
Talking about that on.
Sorry, go ahead, Denise.
I was just going to say that we must be on the same mental wavelength, because we're just discussing that, what an energy drain the hot water heater is, and that I wanted to switch to something different. We're looking for some type of on-demand system. Is that an on-demand system, or?
Yeah,
What, do you have any idea what the rate is on that? What?
Sorry, you cut
Maybe
out.
you can, through Paul, send me. What was the make on yours? Do you know the new one?
I know GE makes them.
I don't remember.
Is it electric?
It's they call it a hybrid, electric hybrid. Heat pump hybrid.
Yeah, an
But it is
on-demand
electric.
system is a little bit different. That's usually a gas system that puts a flame to the water in a relatively almost zero storage. I don't think those are necessarily energy efficient. They're probably more water efficient because you don't waste a lot of water waiting for the hot water to come. But I think what Dory's talking about is an electric. I've researched them and it's great. I think it's really, as she said, it's a big energy saver. But it's usually a little bit bigger. My next door neighbor has one, a little bigger than a normal electric water heater. It has like a unit on the top. I don't know if this sounds like yours or not, but and it is electric and utilizes the thermodynamics to heat the water instead of just pure electricity.
It really isn't that much bigger than the one that we had. It fits in the same like little square of the corner of the garage. But it's cool because it's programmable. So like a smart thermostat, you can program it when you're on vacation to just not turn on. So you can have additional savings that way. So
That is so cool. I would love to see that on our website or something, just like a hint, like tips for the community. So if people are considering that, they'll have that knowledge. I had no idea that existed. And so now now when I go, God, hopefully not tomorrow, but when I go shopping for that, I'll have something to think about, that's energy efficient, that contributes to our vision and mission on this committee. So that's great.
yeah, I mean, if that's something we could add to the website, I would be happy to type up our little story and share the numbers. I mean, it was, like I said, about $1,000 more than a conventional water heater. And I asked our plumber, like, why don't more people, like, I've never heard of this. How come I don't know about this? And he's like, I guess just people just don't think about it. And it's, that upfront cost is more expensive. So, but I mean, it's $100,000, which is a lot to, you know, cough up more upfront. But if you're going to make it back in 2 years
Yeah,
and we're going to be in the house,
that's a great feel-good story. Thank you, Dory.
I think that what
Mhm.
Robin just suggested is a really good thing, to have on the website a sense of a place for tips, sustainability tips. Because one of the best ways to impact the way people live is to present things that people can actually do.
Right.
Like plant a tree, plant some mangroves, you know, get that type of pump. And people don't know often, we don't know that we can do that. And if they're practical things and it says, you know, this is how you do it, that's something people will actually do. And it can really change all of our lives. So Robin, I think that's really brilliant. And I think that if we could bring ideas, but also with this community engagement, we can have a place where things like that could occur.
Yeah.
And share knowledge.
Good one.
It kind of goes back to where we started several months ago with the did you know type of, because
Yes.
I had no idea that existed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so it literally, because you know, could have your little section of did you know that, and one of the very first things that comes up is that you can actually get a hybrid water heater, and then just a little bit, you know, share your little story or what, you know, what have you, so that people are aware of that. And then again, the same, like, you know, did you know, and I might have a little fact about the mangroves or what have you, and why it's important to plant them. So, you know, again, I think that's a really valuable tool, because it all goes back to, again, you don't know what you don't know. So, and we are creatures of habit. So when my hot water heater goes, I just need a new hot water heater.
Right.
You know, and I know that much. I just don't know what's out there necessarily.
Lori, I don't know who's speaking, but I can't hear her.
oh, it's
My-
Karen. Can you
Yeah,
just
my
lean into
my
the microphone?
apologies. Sorry, Paul. I just, my comment was, it brings us kind of full circle back to the did you know and the education piece that we started with several months ago, that, you know, you don't know what you don't know. And so by putting up a little, you know, that little column, you know, did you know that there's a hybrid water heater? You know, because again, you know, if I had to have a hot water heater replaced, the plumber would come out and he would say, all right, great, we're going to go ahead and replace it. And, you know, they have a newer model of what you had. And I would look and say, that's great, thanks. You know, so I think that little piece on the website of information, and then as we accumulate more information, as Carol over here was saying about the, you know, the mangroves or the tree canopy is a, you know, did you know this about the mangroves? And then you can have your little blurb to educate the community on it, so that when they are looking, you know, whether it is to put new trees out or what have you, they have a little more information.
Yes.
Encourage them not to cut them down.
Correct.
We could do the same kind of did you know things with native plants versus turf grass. Turf grass is an invasive, and it doesn't really belong in Florida, but most people have it. If you replace it with native plants, you don't have to use fertilizer. And many of the native plants are drought and salt resistant. The other thing is that if you replace turf grass, which, you know, use a lot fewer chemicals, if any. We don't use any chemicals. We replaced all of the turf grass around our house with Florida native plants. And there are the benefits of, we have songbirds, we have butterflies, hummingbirds, etc., that we didn't have before this. Another tip would be, of course, electric vehicles. We have a new electric vehicle in our house. My wife now has a Tesla Y, and it's the best car I've ever driven. It breaks my heart to say this because I drive a Porsche, but the Tesla is a better car, and it's not close. It's also faster, and it handles almost as well. It's clearly evolutionary technology. And we could also talk about solar panels on the roof. Like Dory was mentioning with the water heater, the upfront cost looks prohibitive to people, but the return on investment is It's about 6.5, 7 years. And then everything is free. So this is a good idea. This is a really good idea. And there are a lot of ways we could kind of inform the public in bits and pieces.
I was going to suggest, as Dory started for us, is maybe think about for in the future under committee comments, committee members talk about a few things they've done. Just as Dory mentioned and Dr. Robinson, I think that's great examples of, walking the walk.
Yep.
Mhm.
Very good.
All right, if we don't have any other committee comments, then
I've got a quick one.
Oh, okay.
Just some personal news. I graduated.
Hey,
I got my
congratulations.
BS in environmental science and policy. So I'm done with school. Woo.
Oh, excellent.
Congratulations.
That's wonderful.
Congratulations, Taylor.
Congratulations.
Very excited.
Here, here. Are you now in the market for a new job?
Yes.
Okay, good luck.
Good work.
Get your LinkedIn put up on the city's website too.
There we go.
Congratulations, that's great. All right, well, I guess then if there isn't anything further, then happy solstice coming up to everybody on the 21st. It's almost here, the longest day of the night, and then we start getting shorter nights. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Hope that 2021 is infinitely better than 2020. Get all toast to that. So wishing everybody happy holidays and health for the new year.
Thank you.
So we'll adjourn. It is 7:36.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Second? Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye. All right. Good
Aye.
evening.